Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the West Ham Irons channel. It's the West Ham The Final Word show. As usual, it's the day after a result. Time to contemplate what's happened, think about it, sleep on it, and see if you still feel as bad as you did yesterday, really, this morning. But yeah, we all know it finished. Tottenham Hotspur 4, West Ham United 1. Really bad performance, really bad result. Embarrassing performance and result in many ways. Very, very disappointing. The season pretty much confirmed has started in a pretty bad way. I think we're in a bottom 5, bottom 6, I think. That's not what any of us expected. We expected to see better football, signings that do well for West Ham largely, fresh start. Top 10 finish at a minimum, maybe cheeky 7th, considering how many players have come in, how much money has been spent. So all of that pre-assumptions, wishes, goodwill and positivity that usually goes with new players and new manager are gone out the window now. So at best we're looking at 11th, 12th positions. It looks like, well, we've just got the FA Cup to play for. Europe is just simply not achievable, I think. You cannot see this team finishing 7th. Many, many clubs in and around and above us, especially, who are far ahead of us in terms of, they're just getting much more out of their team. The players, the owners, the management seem to be more together. We're all over the place, really. So like yesterday, it was very, very difficult to work out where to start. Do you dissect the game? Do you dissect the players, the tactics? I have decided to go down the route of right to the top, and focus on Sullivan and Steidten before working my way down the list, really. So for me, the biggest issue, the biggest problem starts off with Sullivan, right? Sullivan chose to release David Moyes. I think that was a good decision. Mixed reactions out there, I understand. And then Sullivan, more important than that, while David Moyes was at West Ham, decided to go down the sporting director route. He picked Tim Steidten, and then he worked with Tim Steidten to bring Lopetegui in, right? And then he let Sullivan let Steidten and Lopetegui kind of work away a plan of working together to buy players, go out into the market, scout players, a bit of coaching from Lopetegui, hopefully a bit of advice from Lopetegui on what he wants, what he needs, and then Steidten going out there and doing the work and bringing players in, right? That was the plan. I've never really been comfortable with it. I don't understand it. Maybe I'm traditional. I come from a background of not even having a transfer window. Growing up, there was no transfer window. The manager did largely everything. I'm from that kind of background, and I'm going to get comments saying that's out of date. It works at Brighton, it works at Brentford, one or two other clubs, Chelsea especially, right? But doesn't mean it's going to work at your club or whether I agree with it or not. If I was Sullivan, it's my club, I run it. The buck stops with me largely. I know there's a boardroom, I know there's votes that go on, but as far as I'm concerned, Sullivan has got the most influence, the most power, a strong final vote, final say in everything, really. And the way it's coming to light now, when you look at the transfers that have come in, when you look at Somerville, you look at Fulkrug, you look at Guilherme, you look at kind of Wan-Bissaka, sort of how he's settling in, Carlos Soler, the thought about him coming in, as well as a lot of other things that are going on with our current players who are already here and how they're performing in Bowen, Kudos, Paqueta, Areola as an example. It's all mixed in there, right? But what's coming in my eyes, what I am sensing, what's gone on here, and I don't think it should be like that. Some of you think that Steidten more or less should go and just buy whoever he thinks is good. He gives it to the manager. The manager has a duty to coach, And Lopetegui should have known that he's more or less got a minimum say in who he wants to bring in, and he's given the players whether he likes it or not, and he gets on with it. I don't understand how that could work. Lopetegui, I understand that managers get desperate for jobs. There's not many jobs out there, especially in the Premiership, right? And a lot of managers, as you know, we're going to a bit later on, like Frank Lampard as an example, if you're out the game for even half a year, you're going to find it hard to get a job. Yeah. And we've seen a lot of big names over the years end up in Greece, Cyprus, Turkish leagues, things like that. Where I kind of, Mourinho's in sort of, Turkey as an example, right? So Lopetegui coming in is a little bit of, I can't say no, I'll go for the interview. See, I'll impress him in the interview. I'm not that young. I've got Premiership experience. Sullivan, I'll get him on board, influence them and get the job, whatever, and then et cetera, et cetera. But what's coming to light now is, and I don't think it's working, and for me it wouldn't work, is that Steidten has bought Fulkrug. He's bought Guilherme. Them two definitely, right? And the manager didn't want them. What you meant to do with them? Okay, the owners are saying that more or less Kudos is going to go next summer. Paqueta's going to get banned. We got to buy a few players for next year. That's a lot of money. Somerville, Fulkrug, Guilherme, 70, 80 million there. And you could say that they've had a 0% influence on West Ham this season. Is that right? Is that fair on the manager? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The only way this could work, there's a certain way you want to play football, like West Ham, for example. The history, the fans want to play good football. So you pick a coach that plays attractive football, you get on with him, and then Tim Steidten's role should be that he largely looks after the scouting network, the recruitment area, see how the academy's getting along a little bit, maybe one or two other things, and sit down with the manager, talk to the manager, look after the manager, ask him what kind of players you're after, is there any you need, and then you would suggest some players yourself, and then you agree a plan together on the list, and then Steidten goes out and largely is behind, speaking to the player, largely trying to influence him to come to the club. And then maybe even as far as looking after the financial package after having a word with Sullivan, tie up all the loose ends, so leave the manager stroke coach to manage the club on the pitch, right? But the important bit is that the players that are coming in, the manager is happy with. You're not forcing players down his throat. And that's where it's going wrong. There's a lot of players there that we haven't used. We haven't even, especially Fulkrug being a striker. It was so important to bring a striker this season, and we're not being able to do so, right? And that's not good. That's where it's going wrong. And also tied in with that is obviously the manager that Sullivan, maybe Steidten have agreed on, is not the right manager for West Ham United. They have made a mistake. He's not going to perhaps long-term play the way the fans want to see it. And by that, I don't mean the Pellegrini way as an example where you are expansively trying to attack, you're playing a high line, but on the back of it, you're letting in many, many goals every game. You're letting in many, many shots every game. You're kind of being ripped open. That is not what the fans mean by good, attractive attacking football. Right, I know we're talking about John Lyle and it's many, many decades and years ago, but there's got to be a way out there for Sullivan to find a manager who's successful, playing a reasonably attacking good way, who also knows how to organise, be reasonably solid, defend. That's all we want. Right? And what we're finding here is, as well as the transfer plan going tits up, as I said, that on the pitch, on the training field, I don't think the players on board with what Lopetegui's trying to do. He's making too many changes, subs too early, perhaps starting with the wrong team, and even team selection. Like Paqueta is well out of form. He continues to pick him. Areola struggling. He's got to bring or consider talking about bringing maybe number two, maybe Fabianski or the Fodringham. He's got to think about that. He's got to make up his mind on what his midfield's going to be, because we don't really have one. When you look at Rodriguez, Alvarez, Souček, Carlos Soler, individually they've got a lot of good things about them, but collectively and on the pitch, it's not much going on in centre mid for West Ham. You know, we're being bypassed. That's leaving the back four very, very exposed. Kilman is a solid signing. Is a Lopetegui signing. He's looked okay. He's looked good, but it's hard for him. Todibo looks useful. He looks okay. Wan-Bissaka's very up and down. He's definitely a very capable player. But in terms of tactics, in terms of the way he's being coached, a lot of the time when we concede, he's nowhere to be seen at the back. He's often playing as a wing-back winger, but not really thinking about his defensive duty sometimes. So I'm a bit mixed about his kind of individual ability and the tactics the manager's telling him to do. So he's a bit of a mixed bag, you know, not a write-off by all means, but a little bit up and down. And Antonio, it's not his fault that he's having to play. He shouldn't be in a position where we've still got just him playing up front, right? It's really bad for the club, for the manager. And it's all these reasons, you know, what's happened and what's going wrong, really. In terms of kind of having a quick look at the stats, because I didn't really put much on there yesterday, really. But let's work backwards, right? These are the managers who are available. I mean, there's many more out there. Well, this is just a quick list I got out there. You've got Lampard, Potter, Lowe, you got Xavi in there. I don't know too much about the others. You got our beloved David Moyes up there, right? So take your pick on. Because for me, I don't think there's a future for Lopetegui. But like I said, because the way the board is very slow in doing everything, this could carry on into Christmas, and then it will be really bad. And then, like I said, I keep giving him 4 or 5 games. He wins the 1 in 5. He carries on, and then we sort of carry on in reverse gear, and we're bumping up and down around 13, 14, 15, 16, 17th place, dare I say. And then finally they'll react instead of being proactive and look for someone out of contract and bring him into the end of the season, blah, blah, blah. Another season wasted, really. So that's just for me individually. None of those names really reach out to me. My remit has always been someone, hopefully young, that you scouted like you scout unknown players. You unearth gems, which we're not in the history of doing. We always go for the old, established, non-risky type of appointment. But what you got to look for here is someone exciting, young, plays the West Ham way, knows a bit about West Ham, and go with that, really. But very, very importantly, if you want to stick with this Steidten sporting director plan, then I think the manager's got to have 55% say in who to bring in. And then there's no point Steidten not listening to the manager or acting as though he's more senior than the manager, which he maybe is in the makeup of how it looks. And then when you look at sort of Fulkrig's injuries and Guilherme not getting a sniff, and then Somerville not getting a sniff, and then Carlos Soler, what is he doing here? And then it's no good for anyone. It's not good for Steidten because the pressure will build on him. I've already done a show to say that I think he'll be gone within a year. And I got pelters for that, right? He doesn't want to be there. Kudos doesn't want to be there. Lopetegui looks way under pressure already. He looks like it's a wrong appointment. The players don't look happy. The fans are obviously not happy. You know where this is heading, right? But I'm just trying to explain to you that it's not one thing out there. It's all of these collectively together. But the buck stops with Sullivan, right? It's his choice to get rid of Moyes. Largely his choice to bring this manager in. His choice to bring Steidten in. And tick and approve the plan of them to work together, and it's not working, and explaining why, really. I'm not really. I was going to put the tactics on from yesterday, the stats. I'm not going to do that, but what I'm going to do is just have a quick look at that, really, because we've discussed Sullivan, Steidten, Lopetegui, the transfer window, some players. But if we just have a quick look, not saying these ratings are absolutely accurate or what we are saying, but it's a good kind of indicator of what's going on. 4-1-4-1. It's a system I didn't consider we would do, nor have we used, nor do many teams in the Premiership do that. Areola, been pretty average for me this season. Big concern there. I know you guys have a go at sort of people like Ramsdale, but we should consider him in next year. Consider the Everton boy, maybe Pickford. Just see what's out there. I prefer those two in terms of them and Areola. Maybe there's another young goalkeeper out there. It's a very important position, and I think we're struggling. He's a very good shot stopper, and of course he made certainly one very good save. But then the result is 4-1, and it's like the whole team. They're good in small patches, but that's not good enough. It's inconsistency from the team on the pitch. They're good in patches. But just look at the league table and look at the results. Look at the goals we're conceding, right? Look at the shots we're conceding. That is a conclusion of them. I don't care if Paqueta is a cult hero, we love him and all of this. It's just, the proof is there's nothing there. It's not good enough. So Wan-Bissaka, I mean, that's a huge rating there, 7.5. I didn't think he was that good, but it is what it is. Todivo and Kilman obviously settling in. That they've had a handful of games together, but when you've got nothing in front of you in terms of CDM protecting the back four, it's very exposed. And more often than not, you're gonna look all over the place because you're trying to cover Wan-Bissaka, who's sitting on the halfway line. Emerson's got limited amount of pace and so forth, right? Paqueta doesn't really offer anything. Continuously loses the ball. I think he had a hand in 1 or 2 goals losing the ball. Souček, good lad, good pro, great servant. More than given the money back of value what we spent for him, but does he really fit technically into a midfield, in a top 6, top 7 midfield? Would he fit that model? Is he technically brilliant on the ball? Is he, has he got all those attributes that the modern top 6, top 7 clubs look for? I don't know. Bowen, he's one of the worst actually. Yeah, it's a worse rating on. There you go. That's our captain. That's our best player, so-called best player last 2 years, and he's been average. Paqueta, average. Kudos, very good player. Tries his best, but rightly so. Perhaps he's not being played in the right position. That's happened all season. He looks unhappy. We've seen the showdown with the manager. We've seen what happened yesterday, the frustration. It's not good. Antonio was a passenger all game. He doesn't press. He doesn't run. He just jogs around the pitch all game. He's got about 1 goal in a year in him. I don't know. It's just really bad. It's just not good enough. But I've just been bored of having to go at this guy for 2 years. To say that it's the club's fault why he's there. At best, he should be a very competent sub alongside perhaps Souček or 1 or 2 of the others. But what shouldn't happen in my eyes is that week in, week out, we believe that a club good enough to play for Europe has the likes of Souček, Rodriguez, and Tony in their team week in, week out. That's, for me, is a team more suited to the bottom 7 than the top 7. And the proof is at the league table and the performances, really. So, conclusion is that Sullivan has messed up, but not only in bringing Lopetegui in, but the way the Steidten thing is set up, right? No matter what manager comes in, the manager has to have more of a bigger say than Steidten, in my view, to make this model work. And whether Steidten likes it or not, I don't think his role is to. Especially, I saw him in the tunnel yesterday when the players were lining up, and the players are getting motivated, thinking about getting their psyche, getting ready, and he's tapping each player on the back. And I don't think they wanted to see him there. They're just focused in the tunnel, getting their thoughts together. And is that the right place for Steidten to walk in and around the dressing room, shaking hands? I don't think he should be anywhere near the pitch. He should be in the stands. His job is in the back, bringing players in, make sure the players are happy, make sure the manager's happy. And I think he should be working for the manager more than Sullivan, in my view. But the way it looks like is Steidten, obviously, whatever reign Sullivan's given him, that he's the number 2 dog at the club. Maybe he is, but I don't agree with that model. I think the manager is very important, right? But that's me. That's the only way it's going to work. It's not going to work by getting rid of Lopetegui and bringing in maybe a Pellegrini type or Bilic type of manager, which often Sullivan does when pressed against the wall. But then Sullivan, Steidten control all the players largely coming in. That's not going to work. There's going to be players who are going to be sitting on the bench. They're not going to be played the right way. That's not going to work. The only way it's going to work is The manager has to have the majority of the say who's coming in, and he's got to be able to work with Steidten together. There's no point starting going out there and bringing in 20, 25, 23, 22 million pound Guilherme, who no one really knows nothing about, right? For next season, the manager's not going to use him. West Ham are not a bigger club or richer club that we can afford to have no striker, spend 27 million on a 32-year-old injury-prone striker, Somerville player of the season at Leeds, Championship player of the season at Leeds. You've got these three players at a minimum around 70, 80 million who are just not being played, not being used, having no effect for the manager or the club. We just can't be in that position. And what we do, we're playing free transfers, Rodriguez every single game. Souček, again, nothing personal. We thought he was going to be a great sub this season. He's playing week in, week out. And Tony up front, week in, week out. There's many, many more issues than that. There's not enough people for the youth getting a chance either. A couple of them, like Earthy, have gone away. I don't know whether that's good or bad. So there's so many things not happening. The midfield is non-existent. It's too slow. You know, I know it's not easy to go out there and find a Rice equivalent, but you've got to do it. That's not our job. If you're a professional recruitment person like Steidten, Sullivan, if you've owned a club since the 80s, you should know the market. You should know the agents, the people. You should know in the modern game what works, what doesn't, right? It's not my job, right? We love West Ham, we're fans, but we deep down don't know what Lopetegui's about. We didn't even think about him, that he would be the new manager. Of course, we got excited as West Ham fans and channels when we sign players, new managers come in. We want them to do well. We love the intro videos. We love the video footage of the players apparently smiling. And of course, especially me, I loved it. I thought, wow, this looks good. But the proof of the pudding is on the pitch, and it's very, very poor, continuing to be poor. It's continuing to be worse. And I personally think that Lopetegui's, he's got to go at some very near point in the future, and we've got to start again. But when we start again, the manager has got to come in and have the backing and have the belief that he has the majority say in which players are coming in. And then Steidten helps him, not Steidten goes out and stuffs players down the manager's throat. That is not going to work for anyone, really. And suffice to say, like I said, I've summarised what's going on the pitch, and that's due to Lopetegui not being the right manager either. Right, that's the three problems we've got, really. So I don't think there's any more to say on that other than Sullivan's made a mistake. Steidten's not doing it in the right way. I think he's got too much power. I don't think that model works. So you guys in the comments will say, no, this was the way. Steidten's going to be the dog's bollocks. Lopetegui should have known this. I don't think that works. No manager. If that model works for Brighton and Brentford, it works because they have brought a manager in that's playing a certain way that the club believes in. And they're providing them, the coaches, with players that play in that way. Right? As an example, would Spurs sign Fulkrug or Antonio in this Ange, Poch, Spurs, fast, exciting football model? It wouldn't work because Antonio's static, Fulkrug is static, right? Nothing personal against these, and Rodriguez, there's nothing personal against these players, but they are slow. They're physical in certain ways, of course, but they're too slow. They wouldn't work in this Spurs setup. So why would the Spurs sporting director or owner shove those players down Poch's, Ange's face? They wouldn't do that, would they? Players that are coming in, same as the Klopp model and all these people are trying to play the Arsenal model, the managers are the number one person, right? But at a minimum, I understand Daniel Levy's really is number one and all that. I get that, but Daniel Levy will definitely speak to the manager and say, listen, I brought you in because you play like this. I like the way you play. It fits our model. It fits the fans' thoughts. And the players we give you, or the players you give us an idea of, are the ones that you're gonna like. Listen, it is what it is. Listen, I'm gonna end the show now and think about something that's not West Ham.